A secret meeting almost killed this movie before it even started. The studio wanted to bury it. One actor collapsed on set and never came back. And there's a detail hiding in plain sight that nobody talks about. These are the strange secrets behind Blazing Saddles that completely change how you see this film. Secret number 1. Mel Brooks assembled 5 writers and told them one thing on day 1. Do not write a polite script. A giant sign with those exact words hung in their workspace. Brooks later said the whole thing was written in the middle of a drunken fistfight, with everyone shouting ideas at once. One writer quit early on because the chaos was too much. But here's the strange part. Brooks, as both director and head writer, acted as ringleader for the wildest jokes. He loudly championed the most outrageous gags and personally decided what stayed in. The entire screenplay became a test of how far they could push boundaries. Most studios would have never let this script exist, but Brooks had final cut in his contract. The no polite script policy wasn't just a joke, it was the entire production philosophy. Number 2. Richard Pryor was Mel Brooks' first choice to play Sheriff Bart. Brooks wanted Pryor because of his sharp comedy about race in America. The studio refused. Warner Brothers cited Pryor's drug arrests and controversial reputation. They wouldn't insure him as the star. Brooks got furious and almost quit the entire project. But Pryor himself talked Brooks down. He told Mel, "Don't quit. We'll find a good black Bart. Let's just do this." Pryor stayed on as a writer while Cleavon Little got cast as Bart. The strange thing is that Pryor's influence shaped the film's edgiest humor, even though his face never appeared on screen. His behind-the-scenes work created the most provocative moments in the movie. Secret number 3. The title Blazing Saddles came from a shower. The project started as Tex X, a play on Malcolm X, but Warner Brothers executive John Calley rejected it. He thought it sounded too much like a blaxploitation film. Next, they tried Black Bart, which was both the character's name and a famous outlaw from Western stories. Calley said no again because it sounded like a straight Western, not a comedy. They even considered Purple Sage as a nod to Zane Grey's classic novel. Nothing worked. Brooks was under pressure to deliver something that captured the film's wild spirit. One morning in the shower, mid-shampoo, Brooks thought of Blazing Saddles. He pitched it to Calley, who immediately said yes. The strange part is how a completely random shower thought became one of the most recognizable comedy titles in history. No focus groups, no marketing research, just soap and inspiration. Number 4. Mel Brooks offered John Wayne the role of the Waco Kid. He handed Duke the script in the Warner Brothers commissary. Wayne read it overnight and told Brooks the next day that he thought it was hilarious. But Wayne turned it down. The script was too blue, too vulgar for his clean image. He worried it would disappoint his fans. As much as Wayne enjoyed the humor, he couldn't see himself in a film that mocked the Western genre he built his career on. But Wayne made Brooks a promise. "I'll be the first in line to see it." When Blazing Saddles hit theaters, John Wayne reportedly bought a ticket. The man who embodied the Western watched a film that destroyed every Western cliche he ever created. The strange irony is that Wayne loved the movie, but couldn't be in it because of the very thing that made it great. Secret number 5. The first Waco Kid literally drank himself off the movie. Oscar winner Gig Young got cast in the role. He seemed perfect to play a washed-up, alcoholic gunslinger. On the very first day of shooting, Young collapsed on set while filming an upside-down hanging scene. He started vomiting green fluid mid-take. What Brooks first thought was intense method acting turned out to be a medical emergency. Young was suffering from severe alcohol withdrawal. The crew rushed him to a hospital, and suddenly the production had no Waco Kid. A panicked Brooks called his friend Gene Wilder. Wilder, who worked with Brooks on The Producers, calmly said, "I'm the Waco Kid. You need me? I'll be there." By Monday, just 2 days later, Wilder was on set in costume. He flawlessly delivered Jim's introduction scene while hanging upside down. The strange thing is that a real-life alcohol crisis almost destroyed the movie, but Gene Wilder's rescue gave us one of the most beloved performances in comedy history. Number 6. Madeline Kahn almost walked out of her audition. When she came in to try out for Lily von Stupp, Brooks asked to see her legs. Kahn bristled and snapped, "Oh, so it's that kind of audition." She assumed something inappropriate was happening. Brooks quickly explained that in Die Street Rides Again, Marlene Dietrich did a famous scene sitting on a chair with her legs draped seductively. He needed to know Kahn could copy that visual. Once she understood, Kahn laughed, grabbed a chair, and flung her leg over it. She struck Dietrich's exact pose on the spot. Brooks cast her immediately. But here's the strange detail. It was Kahn's idea to sing deliberately off-key as Lily. She suggested making the Torch song "I'm Tired" slightly flat and out of tune to add an extra layer of pathetic comedy. That choice earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. An audition that almost ended in disaster became the foundation for one of the film's most memorable performances. Secret number 7. Slim Pickens slept under the stars during the shoot. The veteran actor and old rodeo rider played the crude villain Taggart. To get into character, Pickens decided to sleep outdoors on the ground with his Winchester rifle beside him. Night after night, he bedded down under the open sky near the set instead of staying in a hotel. By morning, he'd be covered in dust and dew, perfect for a character described as only happy when he's miserable. Castmate Burton Gilliam noticed that Slim avoided modern small talk to stay in character. He greeted everyone with Old West phrases. While Blazing Saddles is a broad comedy, Pickens brought genuine cowboy authenticity to make Taggart's stupidity feel real. The strange part is that method acting usually means intense emotional preparation. For Slim Pickens, it meant literally living like a 1870s cowboy on a 1970s movie set. Number 8. The horse punch gag came from a real incident. One of the film's biggest laughs happens when Mongo punches a horse unconscious with one hit. This absurd moment was inspired by a story about Sid Caesar, the comedy legend Mel Brooks once worked for. According to Brooks, Caesar supposedly knocked out a horse in anger on one occasion. The story might be fake, but Brooks swears it's true. He decided to recreate it on film. The production used a trained falling horse and a perfectly timed fake punch by Alex Karras, who played Mongo. Karras was a former NFL defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions. His casting was itself a joke, a football player literally stopping a horse like a tackle. The sight of Mongo flooring a horse got huge laughs and even prompted a concerned call from the American Humane Association. The strange thing is that a possibly fictional story about a comedy legend's temper became one of the wildest moments in cinema history. Secret number 9. Blazing Saddles featured the first audible fart in a major Hollywood film. The campfire scene where cowboys eat beans and erupt into a symphony of gas was shocking in 1974. Westerns always showed cowboys eating beans, but never acknowledged the consequences. Brooks knew this would destroy audiences. In post-production, he and his team spent an entire day recording fart noises. They didn't eat beans themselves. They used wet soap and armpits to create the sounds, experimenting until they got a perfect variety. Brooks then studied the comedic timing meticulously. He tested different amounts in the rough cut and found that laughs peaked around the 5th fart and dropped after the 12th. So he trimmed the scene to exactly 12 farts for maximum effect. The calculation worked. The gag brought the house down so hard that Brooks boosted the volume of the fart sound effects in the final mix, so audience laughter wouldn't drown them out. Censors called it disgusting. When the movie aired on TV, the farts got silenced for decency. But on the big screen in 1974, that campfire scene shattered comedy taboos. Number 10. Count Basie's desert appearance came from a teenage accident. One of the most absurd moments in Blazing Saddles happens when Sheriff Bart rides across the desert and encounters Count Basie and his orchestra, performing April in Paris in the middle of nowhere. This random, anachronistic cameo shows Brooks's love of breaking reality for a good joke. But the origin is strange. As a teenager, Brooks worked in the Catskills Summer Stock Theater. At 14, he filled in for an injured actor during a performance. Nervous and clumsy, young Mel accidentally dropped a prop water pitcher on stage during a serious scene. In that mortifying moment, he stepped out of character, walked to the footlights and told the audience, "I've never done this before. I'm 14 years old." The crowd roared with laughter. Brooks realized the power of destroying expectations. He said, "From then on, I've broken the fourth wall and I'm never putting it back together." Inserting Count Basie in 1874 Rock Ridge was Brooks' brand of humor. If it makes you laugh, it belongs. Historical accuracy be damned. All right, we're halfway through these secrets. If you're enjoying this deep dive into what really happened behind Blazing Saddles, do me a favor and hit that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss the next batch of movie mysteries. Because trust me, the secrets get even stranger from here. We're about to get into the battles with censors, the one joke even Mel Brooks cut, and the detail that still doesn't have an explanation. Let's keep going. Secret number 11. The film's use of racial slurs sparked a fierce debate during production. The N-word appears dozens of times, always spoken by villains and ignorant townspeople to make them the butt of the joke. During filming, Brooks felt uneasy about the sheer volume. He repeatedly asked Richard Pryor and Cleavon Little if the language was too much. Pryor gave him guidance. If the racists use it, it's perfect. But if good people use it, you're in trouble. The film was mocking racism, not endorsing it. When Brooks screened the finished movie for Warner Brothers executives, they demanded cuts. The slurs, the seduction scene, the fart symphony, Mongo punching the horse, all of it made them uncomfortable. One exec stood up and shouted, "Let's bury this picture. I don't want Warner's name on it." But Brooks had final cut in his contract. He refused to remove the content that made the satire work. He only cut one single line, which we'll get to. Everything else stayed. The strange thing is that this uncompromised approach could have destroyed the film, but it became exactly what made Blazing Saddles a landmark. Number 12. There was one dirty joke even Mel Brooks couldn't keep. During the seduction scene between Sheriff Bart and Lily Von Shtupp, the released version has Lily purr a suggestive question, then coo it's two when the lights go out. Originally, Bart had a follow-up line. In the dark, he was supposed to say, "I hate to disillusion you, ma'am, but you're sucking my arm." This joke killed in test screenings. But at the last minute, Brooks cut it. Maybe he thought it was too explicit. Maybe he worried it undercut Bart's likability. In a 1975 interview, Brooks admitted removing the line in post-production. Even without it, the scene is hysterically suggestive. Kahn's delivery of its "too" became legendary. The strange part is that one of the few times Mel Brooks decided a joke went too far remains a tantalizing what if in comedy history. Secret number 13. A random stranger crashed the finale and made it into the movie. The fourth wall-breaking ending features a massive brawl that spills from the movie set onto the Warner Brothers lot. In that chaos, you might notice one utterly confused man who doesn't belong. He was wearing a brindle sweater. That man wasn't an extra. He was an ordinary person walking near the set who stumbled into the frame by accident. Brooks was directing the chase scene as villains pursued Bart outside the soundstage. They had cleared the area for filming, but this guy slipped past the crew. As cameras rolled, everyone flew out of Warner Brothers onto the street and he just wandered in. His baffled reaction, watching costumed lunatics storm past him, was so perfect that Brooks kept it. The director even tracked the man down afterward to sign a waiver. In a film packed with wacky cameos and characters breaking reality, an actual unplanned real-world cameo might be the most absurd detail of all. Secret number 14. The theme song was sung with total sincerity. Frankie Laine, the legendary singer behind classic Western ballads like High Noon, recorded the opening theme, Blazing Saddles. Brooks wanted a Frankie Laine-type vocalist, and the real Laine volunteered. In the studio, Laine belted out lyrics about a cowboy who turned mothers into prostitutes with complete earnestness. He thought it was for a serious frontier epic. Brooks later said we didn't have the heart to tell him it was a spoof. Laine's unaware sincerity made the song even funnier. The rousing theme plays over the opening credits with whip crack sound effects, as if it were how the West was won. Audiences laughed from the start, picking up on the joke that the music was too heroic for a story about farting cowboys and incompetent bandits. Lane only learned later it was tongue-in-cheek. The theme song even earned an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song. The strange thing is that Frankie Lane's earnest performance nearly won Mel Brooks an Academy Award. Secret number 15. Hedy Lamarr sued and the movie joked about it. Brooks named the villain Hedley Lamarr, played by Harvey Korman, which everyone in the film mispronounces as Hedy Lamarr. The real Hedy Lamarr was a famous 1940s actress. During production, she slapped Warner Brothers with a $100,000 lawsuit, claiming the film infringed on her privacy. Brooks was actually flattered the glamorous icon noticed. The film had already included a meta-joke where Governor Lepitomany says, "What are you worried about? This is 1874, you'll be able to sue her." Brooks had anticipated the lawsuit in the script itself. Warner Brothers settled out of court, paid a small sum, and issued a playful apology for almost using her name. The strange part is that this legal dispute became part of Blazing Saddles lore. Many people first heard of Hedy Lamarr because of this movie, proving that even a lawsuit couldn't dull the film's comedic shine. Secret number 16. Warner Brothers nearly shelved the film as too disgusting. When Brooks screened the finished movie for executives in late 1973, the reaction was stone-cold silence. Studio bosses were horrified. One exec famously snarled, "Let's eat the picture, bury it, the campfire scene, and the language. It's disgusting. I don't want Warner's name on this." They saw the film as unreleasable, but John Calley, vice president of production and Brooks's ally, had one last idea. He urged the studio to sneak the film into a few theaters with no advertising or critics, just to gauge real audience reactions. In early 1974, Blazing Saddles quietly played to preview crowds in Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. The results were electric. Those packed screenings were absolute riots with viewers howling throughout. Word of mouth exploded. Suddenly, the same executives who wanted to dump the movie saw dollar signs. The studio gave Blazing Saddles a proper wide release. It became the #1 film at the box office and Warner Brothers' top earner of the year. The film grossed about $120 million in the US, equivalent to nearly $600 million today. The strange irony is that a movie executives wanted to trash became one of the highest-grossing films in American history. Secret number 17. Mel Brooks never expected mainstream success. Despite his confidence in the comedy, Brooks thought he was making a cult film for a small audience. He said in a 1975 interview, "It was designed as an esoteric little picture. We wrote it for two weirdos in the balcony. My kind of people. I had no idea middle America would see it." He figured the film's irreverent humor, with Yiddish-speaking Indians and vaudeville anachronisms, would appeal to college kids and counterculture types. To his amazement, Blazing Saddles crossed over everywhere. Audiences from heartland towns to coastal cities doubled over laughing. The film tapped into a broader appetite for boundary-pushing comedy emerging in the 1970s. Middle American moviegoers found themselves quoting lines and enjoying raunchy humor. Brooks later joked he couldn't believe regular folks would get it. The strange lesson is that audiences are less predictable than studios think. Sometimes a film made for weirdos ends up beloved by the masses. Number 18. The premiere was held at a drive-in theater with guests on horseback. The world premiere of Blazing Saddles happened on February 7, 1974, at the Pickwick Drive-In Theater in Burbank. Warner Brothers turned it into a drive-in rodeo. Over 200 VIP guests, including Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder, arrived not in limousines, but on horses. They literally sat on horses, or in wagons and buggies, in the drive-in parking lot to watch the movie on the big screen. Attendants served baked beans and sarsaparilla to complete the cowboy atmosphere. Mel Brooks reportedly showed up dressed as a flamboyant cowboy with a giant 10-gallon hat. During the screening, every time a big laugh line hit, the audience of humans and horses reacted with laughter and occasional equine whinnies. The drive-in premiere was a raucous, only in Los Angeles event. It generated great press and perfectly matched the film's playful spirit. The strange symbolism is that Blazing Saddles wasn't just showing a movie, it was celebrating a complete destruction of the Western myth under the open sky, like a proper frontier carnival. Secret number 19. HBO Max added a disclaimer when streaming the film in 2020. As beloved as Blazing Saddles remains, some content requires context in the 21st century. When the film hit streaming platforms, HBO Max attached a special introduction. Turner Classic Movies host Jacqueline Stewart recorded a 3-minute explanation. She points out that Blazing Saddles uses racist language satirically to mock bigotry, not endorse it. All the slurs come from characters portrayed as narrow-minded, ignorant bigots. The film's true heroes are the black sheriff and his white ally. The disclaimer reassures modern viewers that the offensive terms are intentionally uncomfortable and provides historical context about the era and filmmakers' intentions. Mel Brooks has often said they could never make Blazing Saddles today because studios would be too scared of backlash. Yet, by adding these intros, platforms found a way to keep showing the film while addressing its edge. Stewart herself calls it one of the greatest comedies of all time, noting it's as provocative today as it was in 1974. The strange reality is that even 50 years later, Blazing Saddles retains its power to shock and provoke, now with a preparatory note for the uninitiated. Secret number 20. Blazing Saddles got an animated remake as a kids' movie. In 2022, Hollywood released Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank, a cartoon that is essentially Blazing Saddles with cats and dogs. The plot is identical. A scheming official appoints a hapless dog named Hank as sheriff of a cat village to ruin the town, mirroring the original setup. They even recreate gags like the giant brawl and horse punch. Mel Brooks gave his blessing. He's credited as executive producer and voices a character in the film. Originally titled Blazing Samurai during development, the connection was obvious. The original writing team gets credited for story contributions, but translating a raunchy satire about racism into a PG cartoon proved difficult. Critics were brutal. One review called it a limp, declawed Blazing Saddles that somehow triggers new stereotypes while trying to teach tolerance. The film plays like a bizarre funhouse mirror. You're watching the skeleton of Blazing Saddles dressed up with kung fu cats and sanitized for children. Most fans found it baffling. Brooks himself, now in his 90s, remarked with a grin that this might be the only way his classic could get remade today. Not as a live-action comedy that would court controversy, but disguised as a cartoon about samurai animals. The strange footnote is that Paws of Fury proves the story's core. An outsider winning over a community and defeating prejudice truly is universal, even if the raw edge got lost in translation. Bonus secret. There's one more thing that makes this production even stranger. The horse used in Mongo's punch scene reportedly had better accommodations than some of the actors, because of animal welfare regulations and the American Humane Association watching closely. That trained horse got its own climate-controlled trailer, special food, and constant veterinary supervision. Meanwhile, several human cast members shared cramped dressing rooms. The production spent more on the horse's comfort than on extras' meals. Slim Pickens joked that the horse ate better than the villain. It's a perfect Blazing Saddles irony. In a movie that punches every sacred cow, the actual animal got treated like royalty while humans roughed it. So, there you have it. 20 strange secrets and a bonus that completely change how you see Blazing Saddles. From drunken writing sessions and shower epiphanies to collapsed actors and horse-punching legends, this movie was chaos from start to finish. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you'd like more videos from us.